Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to 22 Panels, where my guest tonight, for at least the fourth time, maybe fifth time, he's a regular enough that we just call him a friend of the podcast. Chris Condon is here. Um,
We've lost count.
yeah. Um, Night People, his adaptation of the Barry Gifford novel, is final order cutoff about a week from now. So go get your orders in. Chris, how you doing?
Doing well. I hope people are going to pre-order Night People because it's a really unique book. I'm really proud of the work in it, and I think it was a difficult thing to do, and but it's really unique, and I'm really excited for people to actually read it.
I,
I
I
just
mean,
sent it to you, and I sent it out. I finally got it out to a bunch of people, and I'm excited to hear back from people what they think.
I was about to say before we get into like the difficulties and differences of adapting somebody else's work from a different medium versus writing your own stuff. I will say that yeah, you sent it to me and I dug it. It's trippy. I
Hmm.
probably didn't spend quite as much time with it as I might have because I was reading it at school, and every time I hit like a gory scene or a sexy scene, I feel like there were students a little bit too close to me for me to stay on that page for very long.
Well,
But
that
but
is the
I'm
thing.
flying through it again now. I mean, just scrolling back and forth as we talk. Who had the art on the first issue? I mean,
It's
that's
Brian
another
Level.
thing. Brian Level.
Yeah.
Um,
And he killed it. He did an
yeah, no,
amazing.
the art is outstanding. Let's start there. There are going to be four different artists for the four issues.
Hmm.
First, introduce them and then give us an idea of why.
Well, if
Because
you know how
that's
to
happened a
pronounce
few
it,
times, but
if you know how to pronounce some of their names better than me, that would be
I
swell
can
if you
make
would correct me. But
guesses. I think it's Artyom Tapian, Tapiam,
okay,
Alexandra
that's totally different than I would have said.
Tefenki.
Yes. Okay, so both of them and Marco Finnegan.
Marco Finnegan, I think, is actually Marco Finnegan. Good job.
I think it's Marco Finnegan. Well,
And if
it's
we
just
mispronounce the others, you got me to do it. So good job.
I feel like a dunce when I say their names because I just know them through emails. I've never heard
Yeah.
their names pronounced. I've
This
never,
is this is why,
talked to
and
them.
even if I forget to do it off air, I try to remember to do it off air with every one of our guests. But I've gotten to the point where like I will just ask. Sometimes the first question is, I don't want to butcher it. Can you introduce yourself?
Oh, I always on my podcast on the Patreon, I always ask before I start recording.
I
Um,
sometimes forget because I get into like some other conversation or you know how I
uh,
am.
I
I
had
try to make
Andrew
that the first
Cronky.
conversation.
I had Andrew Cronky on who did Bloodrick, and I was like, I do not want to say your name wrong. Could be cranky, could be I don't know. And so he was just like, no, it's cronky. Okay. I was like, that's
We we actually knew and still mispronounced Clayton Cole's name throughout the entire episode where we had all of the ever love everlasting.
mm.
We had Tom, Elsa, Clayton, and Matt all together. And we knew how to pronounce his name. We talked about it beforehand, and we still messed it up throughout the whole episode. And he didn't correct us a single time. And I
So what were you
realized it
saying?
right after it went up. But I like sent him an email apologizing. He's like, "Yeah, people do that all the time." I'm like, "Yeah, no, you're coming back just so we can get it right."
That's funny. Yeah, it's some, Saint David Pepose was another one.
Right.
Because I was like, is it
I
Pepose? Is
still
it
have to remind
Pepose?
myself that it's Leanna Kangas, not Congus.
Yes. See,
I always
it,
want to go Congus, but it's Kangas.
I mean, people ask me how I pronounce my name too. Condon.
Condon.
Some people are like Condon,
It's
Condone.
it's Chris Condon.
Yeah. Well, I found there were some immigration papers that my dad had, and I think it must have been just like verbally said because on one of the papers it was written Condin,
Okay.
and that's how you pronounce it, Condon.
Well, I mean, it was probably actually Chris Kovaleski at one point, but that was just too much to spell.
No, we're Irish. We're easy.
Well, so what you're saying
Potatoes
is it was
and
Kovaleski before you went to Ireland,
yeah,
and then it was O Condon,
yeah. No, we just sprung out of the ground. That's
or was it O Mech Condon? You're O Mech Condon.
um, but yeah,
I can't help a friend of mine. Um, I'm going to make fun of the Irish, and hopefully nobody will get. I'm not really making fun of the Irish, but I can't. So a friend of mine was once looking for a name in the phone book that was in the M's. And he kept going page over page after page after page. Finally went, why are there so many Micks in the phone book? And then he went, oh, that's where that comes from.
yeah. That is where it comes from. I think the fact that you framed it that way, I think makes it not a problem.
I hope so. We
It's
meant
not a
no offense.
problematic thing to say.
If somebody is offended, email Tyler and he'll cut it for us.
Yes. There you go.
22 panels at gmail.com or 22 panels podcast at gmail.com.
There you go. Re Tyler. Um, but anyway, where were we? We were talking about something.
how was the decision made to use four different artists?
That was right from the start. Because essentially, so the way that have you haven't read the
I
very
haven't read the
novel?
original.
Okay.
See if we'd even like scheduled this a week ago, I may have either read or listened to the original, but we scheduled this like what 20 hours ago, and I spent 8 of
Yeah.
them at school.
Well,
Eight of them sleeping.
it is true that FOC is just right around the corner, and
Right.
I don't even know if anybody else was thinking of it. We're all just sitting there working on the book, and they're like,
Well,
"Oh my
that's
God,
actually
it's coming!"
we've
So
started highlighting upcoming FOC on the weekly episode, but I don't want it to be that week because we release on a Sunday night. I make it the week ahead.
yeah.
Um, but that also means that if I see somebody who FOCs a week from now that I know, it's like, oh, I should reach out and say, hey, did you want to talk about this before people have to order it?
Well, it's the thing, I mean, I'm sure that there's going to be some orders for it,
There
but
will be.
it's just that you want to make sure that it gets that out there and that people actually know about it and hear about it, and the
Which
people
is
who
why
might
you're on
not
my
know.
podcast. Hi, Mom. Hi, John. Please order Chris's book.
Hi, Chad's mom.
Hopefully my mom will get to it. She sometimes falls behind
Hey,
because
man,
mom
it's
actually
not too
sometimes
dark
orders
for
the
her.
book. No. What I mean is mom. Well, actually, no. She might dig the darkness.
Okay.
Um, not always, but she's got interesting tastes. And mom will sometimes hear us talk about something and go, "Oh, I kind of want to read that." And she's discovered that there's a comic shop between the library that she works at in Iowa and her home in Galena, Illinois. So she'll sometimes stop there and pre-order things.
Interesting.
Um, I
Well,
mean, this all started
she should totally order the
night
trade
people. Duh.
for
That's what she does. She does
her
that more often.
library. Um,
She doesn't do the
but
ordering for the library,
but yeah,
but yeah.
so the reason that we did four artists for each issue was, or one artist per issue, was that it the way that the book is laid out, the actual novel is that it's four sections. It's essentially it's not exactly novellas, but they feel like novellas because they each focus on a different character. And there's places that appear throughout
So it's kind of the four
all
separate points
four.
of view type thing.
Yeah, and
Okay.
so we were right from the beginning. Hunter and I were discussing what the book should be. Hunter Goranson is the head of Oni right now.
Okay.
and is doing a fantastic job, as I
Yeah,
like
no,
to
I've been
tell
very
people.
happy with Oni lately.
Um,
Um,
but yeah, he came to me with Night People right from the start as soon as he took over at Oni, and really wanted to do this. This was a passion project of his. I actually hadn't read the novel, and he sent it to me and said, we'd really like you to do this. And I was kind of already on board because I didn't. He told me about Barry a little bit and was, because I knew Barry's work, but didn't know that I knew Barry's work. It was one of those things.
oh, I get that.
And
I
all
have
of
an
a sudden,
interview.
Black Lizard imprint, the crime novels, Jim Thompson
Yeah,
and
yeah.
all those Black Lizard books, that's Barry's imprint.
Is it? Then I
Um,
might know more of his work
Wild at
than I thought
Heart,
I did
uh,
too.
the Sailor and Luna novels, that's Barry, and Wild at Heart. The David Lynch film was co-written with Barry. The film
Right,
Lost Highway was inspired by. There's a line in Night People
right.
where they say that they're just two Apaches on the Lost Highway or
Yeah, I
something.
saw that.
And that line was what David Lynch took and they made Lost Highway. So it's like a non-adaptation adaptation of Night People, which was really the impetus of Night People was Hunter and Barry thinking that, we'd like people to actually see Night People as it actually is and not just, the David Lynch version of it, which is not really an adaptation at all. So that was kind of the impetus behind doing a faithful adaptation. And in reading the novel, I didn't want to do anything but a faithful adaptation because it has such a distinctive voice that I didn't want to detract from that. And I felt like because I think there's two ways you can go with an adaptation. I think that both can be the right approach and in some ways they could probably both be the wrong approach. It depends on how you tackle it. But you could either be incredibly faithful or you could differ entirely. Like the Watchmen adaptation by Sam Hamm is actually my preferred adaptation of Watchmen because it's so different. It does something totally unique and it makes it into a movie. It's a before they were doing deconstructions of superhero movies, it was a deconstruction of the superhero movie. And
Right,
I that's what I like that script for. And I do wish that they had made it with Terry Gilliam, but whatever, it didn't happen.
right.
Um, and yeah, anyway, we went with the faithful adaptation. But coming back around to the artist, yeah, Hunter and I discussed it, and I personally thought we should do four artists, one for each issue, because each story has a unique feel to it. They don't, they have threads throughout them all that connect them, but they're very unique, and they each deal with, unique characters. And I thought that the best approach would be to use four different artists, and also it's just cool to have four different artists tackling
Oh, absolutely.
uh, the same, on the same series. So, and it's really exciting that we got the four artists that we did get. And they're all knocking it out of the park. Marco's only done concept sketches at this point, but those sketches are fantastic, and they're it's gonna be a cool. Once we have the trade collected and we can look at all of them together, it's gonna be really really good because I've only seen PDFs at this point.
So
And I hate looking at comics on PDF. I hate it.
I,
People
I,
send
I
me stuff all the time. Can you read this? And I
I'll read them for you.
like the book, but I hate reading PDF.
I'll read them for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I fell down a rabbit hole when you said Black Lizard imprint because I'm
Yeah.
like, I know that. And
Raymond Chandler,
the
Dash
reason the
Lawrence.
reason I know that is under the Black Lizard imprint, books from my favorite current crime author and my favorite old-time crime author have been published, as well as the trilogy that my granddaughter was named after.
You're gonna tell me what it
Because we've got Carl Hyacin is on Black Lizard,
Yes.
and there's Dashiell Hammett on Black Lizard, and Stieg Larsson's Millennium trilogy, and Elizabeth Salander, which is where my
Uh,
granddaughter got her first
right.
name,
Well, there you go. So I mean,
are
it's
all
Well, that's the thing. Barry
I mean,
is
I
an
recognize
unsung
quite a few
hero.
more.
I truly think Barry is an unsung hero, and the fact that I didn't even recognize his name when I first heard about the project sort of speaks to,
Yeah.
how unsung he is, and it's a shame. And I hope that this
Well,
book
which
does
means
bring
that
people.
when we talk, oh, James Elroy too,
Yeah, I'm telling you, this is a guy who is
Ross
respected
McDonald.
in his medium, especially, but he's also, I think Wild at Heart is like, I mean, it's one of my favorite Lynch films. So it's like,
Yeah.
I think that anyway, he's just, I hope that
So
people get.
I'm just saying right now that when I bring you back for the trade, because you know I will, you
Bless
got
you.
to see if you can bring him with you.
I don't know if he knows how to zoom.
We can teach him,
I don't know. We'll see. He is a
or
lovely guy,
or
though. He's a nice
or he
guy,
can
but
phone it in. I'm okay with that. There's a way to phone into a Zoom. I can give him the phone
that is
number to call.
true. That is true. I mean, sure. That would be an interesting conversation, actually. I actually do think that would be a very interesting conversation because I think that,
I mean, all I'm saying,
obviously,
connect us. The worst that can happen is say no, or don't connect us. Ask for me, and the worst that can happen is he'll say no, and that's
I
okay
will
too.
ask. I will ask. Don't you worry. I will ask. Um,
But I think it would be much more fun to have him involved when we can get spoilery.
this is true. It's hard to get spoiler on a thing like this, though, where it's so
Well,
it's
yeah.
hard to put in a box.
What I really mean is when we cannot worry about if we're spoiling anything. And
Yeah.
for that matter, John Lees even taught me how to handle it. If we get to the point where we want to talk about something where we might spoil it, we stop and we say, okay, anybody who's at all worried about spoilers, pause the podcast, go read it, come back, spoiler zone starting in, and then count it down.
Yes. Yes. Uh,
This is not a spoiler zone yet, not
this
till we
is
get to
not a
Enfield.
well, issue one isn't even out, although the book's been out for 30 years.
Right.
So I think we're well past the spoiler zone, but whatever. It's okay.
Well, I mean, but it's a different medium, and
And
I mean,
I think it's largely going to be a new audience finding it. I think that
almost certainly,
yeah. So
particularly in single issues. And we talked about
yeah.
this a little off air. Um, I think with the proper marketing or the proper plugging or the right people finding out about it and liking it, the trade paperback could have sales to a lot of people who love the novel. But the single issues is going to be a new audience, and with any luck, we'll then sell the novel.
Yes.
Uh, I mean, I'm way more
I think
likely to
that's
go
the
looking for
plan.
the
I think that's
audiobook
the
than
plan.
now than I was 24 hours ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I mean, I really hope that it does find that audience that you and I were talking about, and I hope that it brings people. I hope that from one person, I hope that Barry's fans, pre-established fans, find my work through this book, and then I'll also vice
I hope
versa.
they find, if they haven't already, I hope they find comics.
That's well, yeah, exactly. And that's one of the things that I hope once they actually are promoting the trade and putting it in, whether they're going to put it in Publishers Weekly or
Right.
whatever. It's I think that that's an exciting thing for me is to be a part of, uh, perhaps, uh, discovery,
Right.
of comics to a certain group of people that might not have otherwise been reading them. Um,
I mean,
and
I do actually really love the number of comic adaptations of things that have been coming out lately,
yeah.
particularly because so many of them have been truly good.
Yeah,
Um,
and I read there was one that I read in preparation of this that I decided not to do that type of adaptation, which was Slaughterhouse-Five,
See,
which
I
was a
loved
great
that
adaptation.
adaptation.
No,
Yeah,
it's a great
yeah.
adaptation, but I don't think that I wouldn't adapt this that way.
Okay.
And
How
the
so?
adaptation that it just, like I
I mean,
said,
I just because I don't know what you mean by that way. Not
uh I think that Vonnegut has uh such a humorous view of the world. Not the, and Barry has a dark view. And I think that what the adaptation that I most closely associate, and I guess Vonnegut also has a dark view, so it's hard to pinpoint or nail somebody down. But the adaptation that I most closely referenced in terms of actually just me being like, okay, this is kind of how I think that I want to do it. And I didn't even, it's not even, it's not even the same, but I really enjoyed the Sleeping Beauties adaptation,
Okay.
um, which Allison Sampson drew.
Right.
And that was one that I actually preferred to the book. I'm a big Stephen King fan, as I'm sure that you remember.
Yeah.
And that's actually a Stephen King book that I don't enjoy so much. I didn't really like that one at all. I thought it was too long and just, it sort of meandered too much. Which, I'm the odd man out in the Stephen King fandom where I'm the guy who doesn't really like the uncut The Stand.
I mean that actually sounds a lot like me and the Grateful Dead. I love the Grateful Dead. I love them much, much better the tighter they are.
Yeah. I think that that's a
I mean,
fair.
I love it when they have a good jam, but I think a lot of the times when they've got a 30-minute jam, it's not because it was good.
Yeah. It's
It
because
was
they got
because they couldn't
undone.
find good.
They uncoiled.
Right. Right. Um, no,
But
I only bring that up because for me, and I don't want to make this about Slaughterhouse Five necessarily, but for me, and I love Vonnegut,
yeah.
but I didn't get the humor in Slaughterhouse Five until the comic.
Okay, well, and that's fair. I think what I'm pinpointing in our adaptation, and again, like I said, it was my goal was to do faithful
Right.
a faithful version of the book, as opposed to sort of, and I think that that's part of what
But
makes that Slaughterhouse
the
Five so great too, is that it
it
really
is it's very faithful.
it's
It's
very
more
faithful,
faithful
but
than I
it's
thought was possible. And
yeah,
it's also why it helped me understand the book because it was that faithful. But there are concepts in Slaughterhouse Five that if you don't think in pictures, which I don't,
yeah.
you can't grasp.
That's an interesting perspective. Well, anyway, I just wanted to say, I for me, it was I kind of came down to two adaptations that I thought were, and they're actually film adaptations, but those were the two that I kind of drew on, which was True Grit,
Okay.
Coen Brothers, Charles Portis,
I was about to say the newer one, I assume.
and then No Country.
Okay.
And I think the reason that I gravitated toward those two is because there is humor in True Grit, but there is this overwhelming darkness as well. And they're also both about a time previous to um previous to when the novel came out, and it's an examination of that time through the happenings in the novel. And that's what Night People is to a certain extent, is it's sort of Barry's examination of the 20th century and
Okay.
how it so screwed up the people
That makes
um,
sense.
and he does it through focusing in on the South and focusing in on these certain characters and essentially coming to the conclusion that men are the problem. um,
Yeah, that's definitely the moral of the first issue.
yeah, and it goes throughout. It goes
Yeah. Well,
throughout.
I haven't read the
That's
book or
Night
the other
People.
three. And you said that we
Um,
had different points of view, so I didn't want to.
Yeah, no, it's there throughout, and I think that that was the kind of the key for me was understanding that and locking in on that and thinking about what that means exactly. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I'm that's that. I'm gonna period. I'm gonna stop there.
No, I that's a good place to take it. yeah, it's a fun read. Well, no, fun's not the right word. It was a slightly challenging, enriching read.
Yeah. Well, that was another thing in the adaptation of it was that it's so this is the thing with Barry's novel is that it's like it jumps from place to place and person to person,
Right.
and he just gives you snippets of what
Yeah.
these people are doing, and you don't know why they've been introduced, and then he just goes away,
Right.
and then you won't see those people until the very last chapter, and all of a sudden they have a pivotal role. But that's what he does. He just like, and so trying to figure out how to incorporate that and
So what you're
how
saying
big
is
of a role.
it's gonna be one of those books that you have to kind of read and reread, and it will be
Yeah, I
advantageous
don't.
to
I
have
mean, it's just
advantageous to have the single issues because then you can look at stuff in issue one while you're looking at stuff in issue three and going, oh, I get it.
yeah, maybe. I mean, it's a unique sort of, and especially the fact that it's in single issues and that it's not a graphic novel, which I think is another difference between this and, for example, like the
Oh
Slaughterhouse Five
yeah.
adaptation, which also was Sierra Han, who's at Oni now, was the editor on that book.
Okay.
So she wasn't my direct editor, but she was involved in Night People to a certain extent. So that was
So somebody
exciting for
who
me.
had experience adapting a challenging book to adapt
Yeah. Yeah.
was
And
there
you
for
know,
some of
and
those
again, it
books.
was just it felt right to me to try, and it's just such a distinctive particular book with a particular voice because the way that Barry writes is it's almost like the way I like to describe him is like if the Coen brothers, it's like the Coen brothers meets Thomas Pynchon,
Okay.
meets Cormac McCarthy. Like that's like the three like things that he is. He's like supremely dark, supremely hilarious, and it's just the characters are just wild with
Okay, we're
weird
gonna
names. And it's just, it's this insane world that's a reflection of ours.
we're gonna spoil an image here just because I I love a great panel
Hmm.
and the aerial shot of the lawyer feet up on the calendar on his desk laid over the tape deck is just brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah, Brian did a fantastic job. I love Brian's work in this as well because I mean it's set in the 90s.
Uh,
And one of the things that I really love about Brian's work is that it has this sort of to me it has like a sort of underground 90s sort of punk feel to it. Um, and that's one of the things that I love about what he brought to it.
yeah, to me it's also a reminder that that um certain trends lag because I could tell that it was set in the 90s from any number of things, but some of the fashion is more 70s and 80s. But then we're in the rural South, and just like the rural North. I mean, lots of rural areas. That seems to be like a defining thing. It's like you look at what's popular and it's like, wasn't that 5 years ago? And you
Yeah.
talk to a native and they're like, oh, yeah, it just got here.
I think that's also, real people.
That's what
I
I mean.
mean,
Yeah.
my parents, when I was growing up, we had like a KitchenAid thing from 1975 that we used.
Right.
You
Right.
know, it just that was they bought it once and that was, oh, I dropped the money on it then and it still works, so we're good.
Right.
You know.
Absolutely.
But yeah. But we do also say it's 1991 in the beginning.
Yeah, yeah.
So, which helps. But
But no, I mean there are other cues. It
yes.
doesn't feel like a 70s book, but it does have also kind of that timelessness that, I mean, you do this sometimes with That Texas Blood too, where I know that we're in the 80s, but it feels like it could be the 60s, it could be the 80s.
Yeah.
It could be any time because people don't change as much as we feel like they do. Even the world doesn't necessarily change as much as we feel like
Yeah, I mean,
it
there's,
does.
you'll see pictures of the Beatles, for example, and they look like just like a band today.
Right.
It's really crazy to see and to
Well,
realize that.
particularly on stage,
Yeah.
you know, album covers might have changed some, but you see them play in the Cavern Club and it's not close enough to make out their faces. It becomes hard to know what era you're in.
Yeah.
It's a rock band with a bassist and two guitarists and a drummer, like a million other rock bands. um, but I like that. I like I like the space that he gets into this. This is a very, at least issue one is a very, very fun book visually.
hmm I think that they all are, and I think that that's a testament to the artist, obviously. So
Right.
really, uh, really happy
Well,
with.
I mean, here's a question, a process type question. Um, do you know if the artist read the book or the artist just working from
Uh,
direction?
I don't believe so. No.
Okay. So it's a testament to both of you because you had to condense the book and decide what they needed to see.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
there's certain things that I wish that I could have kept, but we had 30 pages per
right,
issue,
right.
and so it's like, okay, do I prioritize this or that? And it's just, well, if I want to actually tell like if you cut out all the kind of I don't want to call it fat because it's good
No,
stuff, but
right.
you cut
Well,
out the
and
fat.
it's one of the inherent differences between the mediums is I mean it's twofold. It's um, comics because of the pictures have a greater economy of words,
Yeah.
but also are in general a leaner medium period. So it's not that you cut out the fat as much as you have to make decisions. And those decisions aren't always because you've got some places where it very deliberately slows down.
hmm
Comic
I will
pacing is
say
interesting
this
that
this
way.
opening the opening sequence is not in the book. I think there's like two lines or something in the book. Um, but I thought because it's also not the opening of the book.
Right.
So but I thought,
Took some
well,
license, needed to set it
well, if we
up a
want to
little bit.
hook people, you gotta
Right.
do something.
Right.
And what better
Um,
way than finding some decapitated bodies?
well, I mean,
It's a hook.
but I mean, seriously, that whole page that I was just talking about, I mean, the
Yeah, so
radio
it's
itself, I mean, he's just listening to the radio. And
well, and
what's on
I
the
think
radio
that's
isn't incredibly important. It's a page that's about pacing.
yeah. Well, and that's another thing that I think is really interesting about Barry's book is that, like, Dark Knight Returns and, especially the Frank Miller works of the
Right.
80s and even into the 90s. I mean, the media plays an extreme
Oh,
role
absolutely.
in it.
Now,
And
this
I
is where
would,
I'm gonna say, just because I enjoyed talking to him, that Howard Chaykin did that in American Flag first.
yes, okay, all right.
Let's not give Frank all the credit
Um,
here.
Well, all right, all right, all right. But Barry does that in the novel as well, and
Yeah.
it's throughout. There's TVs talking, and they're all sort of
No,
non
I was only
sequiturs.
bringing it up as if we were talking about trimming the fat, it would have been easy to take that out.
Yeah. And it's just it's very much an American story
Right.
because it's half of it takes place in cars
Yeah.
and there's radios and TVs. It's like it's such an American 20th century thing. Um
What
and
what I'm guessing, without having read the original material, is that you kept the essence. Talk to me about taking somebody else's prose and finding the essence to feed to artists.
yeah, so I mean that just kind of
Because
um
it seems uh,
I try
for
to set the tone from the first panel on, and I think that
right.
that's an important thing. I think that that's the thing that I do in everything I do. I think that whether you're doing writing a book or writing a comic or a film, I think that you need to establish a tone immediately. And if you don't, yeah, I don't really, it takes, if it takes me 20 minutes to figure a movie out, that's a problem.
I
If it takes 20
totally
pages
agree.
to figure a comic out,
No, I
that's a
totally agree,
problem.
particularly when it comes to comics, but not always when it comes to novels. So what I'm really asking about is what did it take in reading Night People? Did you feel the tone immediately, or did it take some reading and digesting and working out what you thought it meant to reach that tone?
Well, no, I mean, I wouldn't say that I knew how I wanted to adapt it initially from my first read. I had to really dive into it, and once I was actually breaking down each chapter and finding lines of dialogue that I wanted to use and what parts I needed to discard and what I needed to cut down, et cetera, et cetera. That was really where I started finding the tone and the feel of the book. But I do think that yeah, I think it's there right, from the start, from
Pretty
the
clear.
first read through. It's not something I really thought about necessarily until I was actually breaking it down. Because once you're actually breaking it down, then you have to actually start thinking about how you're going to bring it to life. Because this is, I mean, it's a unique position to be put in
Right.
where you're taking somebody's work and that person's alive and they're, able to see what you're doing. So you need it to be, you need to be something that they feel is their work as well,
Right.
you know? And so I sort of just, I got what he was doing inherently from his prose, and that's a testament to Barry. And I really just wanted to capture this. It's there. All I could tell you is I feel like if there is a clear sky in the comic, I don't think there are. I think that that's the book. I think it,
Um,
I think it's a lot of dark skies, and I think that that's what I tried to bring to it was that idea of that there's always going to be thunder at the on the horizon, and that's what this book is, and and that's right to the end of the adaptation, issue 4. It's same thing. It ends not on a necessarily positive note, and but that's how it's supposed to be.
so
And
um
also, I think that that's, again, going back into what Barry was doing with, an adaptation, or not an adaptation, but an interpretation of the 20th century, and his interpretation of the degradation of the American dream, so to speak, and just looking at, this incredibly intense and exhausting century in which there were two world wars, assassination of political leaders, of positive change that was curtailed by murder, intense hatred, um, technological advancements like we've never seen, the creation of world-destroying weapons, uh, to get to a point where you're the pinnacle of humanity in the 90s was Batman Forever. So, and I think that that's kind of what I think
God, I
Barry
hope
was
not.
doing, is just how this insane century impacted people. And I think that, like, in a way, it's the perfect time for it because we all just went through this pandemic that I
Yeah.
don't think we all know exactly how it affected us yet.
No.
And I think that well, I think we know. I was having a very intense discussion with Marley, my girlfriend, and we were talking about one of the things we were talking about is just about social media and cell phones and all that, and just how kids can't really be kids anymore. Which it was also something I heard on Mark Maron's WTF podcast, which I was reiterating to her. Um, but
So I
that's a thing that
I push back against my coworkers on this every day. So I'm gonna say I don't know that that's true. I think the kids are kids in slightly different ways,
well, I don't think that anything
but
is
just like they
absolute.
don't get VCRs, we don't get TikTok.
Well, I don't think that. All right, so I think that we're not seeing. I don't think we're talking about the same thing exactly. So here's what the point, and I do agree with this point of view. I mean, I from even just from my own perspective of how I use social media and how I think it's affected me, in terms of how it did become an addiction, and I'm not on Instagram anymore, for
Right.
example. Um, and I very much do want to get off Twitter, but I have curtailed my use as much as possible. I'm still on it, and I still use it too much, but I've curtailed my use pretty much. Anyway, but the point of in the Mark Maron podcast specifically, was about how kids today. Well, okay, so so I was in a conversation with Jim Gaffigan, and the perspective was that before social media, kids just had to contend with their feelings, their own personal feelings. They had to deal with if they were being bullied, there was the bully on the schoolyard, and that was enough to really it was really impactful to them. But now they have to their emotions are amplified because they're getting all of the emotions in the world, and vice versa. They're being bullied on a massive scale. If they say something wrong on Twitter, if they say something wrong on TikTok, anybody can access this. Anybody can bully them. Anybody can do anything to them. They're out there in the world. It's not just the schoolyard anymore. It's and that is the perspective that they were sharing. I do think that's true to an extent. However, I don't think that anything is an absolute. And I mean, that even goes down to what we were talking about before with adaptations. I mean, there's no right way to adapt
Right.
something.
No, I'm
There's no
just
right way to write a script. There's no right way to make a film. It's just, there's always, I might say that, oh, this is how I, did this and blah, 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 blah. But there's no right way. There's no, I think ever saying that there's, black and white is, you'd have to be Steve Ditko to believe that.
no,
Um,
absolutely. Absolutely. My I agree that there's some of what you've said.
which again is not my perspective, but
No,
I
no, I know it's
do
not your
agree with it.
perspective. But I was literally having this exact conversation with some coworkers, including a couple social workers yesterday, I think. Um, and one of the things that I've noticed is, we talk about Facebook and Twitter and Instagram because those are the ones we use. Most of the kids stopped using them because they went, "Oh, no, I don't want that kind of thing." You find that they find the app that has the least footprint. There's still
Yeah,
preference is Snapchat. That stuff goes away in 24 hours. Um, what I
this is
don't
true.
see is what I sometimes had to deal with in high school when I saw people, the note on your locker that everybody sees, or somebody has fun with a copy machine and suddenly there's something all over the school.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen anymore because somebody puts something up on TikTok, but then it's gone or nobody
What is it?
cares. Well, yeah, no, but
And
again,
people are spying on you and stealing your information, and it's everything's awful. No, I
everything's
agree with you, and
different.
I do think that there is that sort of the always seeking greener pastures, and I do think
I mean,
that
I am certain that if not our parents in particular, people of our parents' era were saying the same about people having camcorders.
yeah,
Oh,
I
they're
don't I
taking
don't
videotape of
disagree.
everything now.
I don't disagree, but I also think that social media is great to for it's a fantastic tool. And there's a great many things that I appreciate it for, especially, for example, my book came out, Texas Blood came out in the pandemic.
Right,
I didn't get to know anybody
right,
until 2022. That was the first time I actually met other creators was 2022. I went
right,
to England in 2021, but that was even that was like a truncated
right,
version, like a
right.
comic. It was a festival in the UK, and I got to meet a great bunch of people, but the first time I actually got to meet people was 2022, and that's 2 years of, just interacting with people through social media. And for that, I'm incredibly thankful that I had that. But I do think that there is an inherent danger to it as well. And I think that it's something that I've become incredibly aware of, especially over the last, since Trump really, but
Yeah.
it's just in my perspective, it becomes dangerous where people. Here's the other thing that I think that I've been thinking about a lot is that there's no news anymore because everything's news. There's comic news, there's movie news, there's space news, and this, there was always going to be a zine, there was always going to be a this or that or the other, but it's like I get updates on my phone about, oh, this celebrity is doing this because I looked up a film they were in. And I think that it's so backwards, and I don't really care. I don't care about any of this stuff that my phone is telling me to look into.
You got to
But
get
it's
better at
also just
curating your
like
updates, man.
but it was yeah, I don't yeah, again, I don't really care. So just to actually go into my settings and do that would be but anyway, but like
Well,
it
but again,
sort
that's
of
one of the things that the kids do
well so and this was the
because they
thing.
were born with it.
Yeah, and that's a thing that I mean, I guess we'll see what happens in the next generation.
I guess
And I guess you see it because you
I
work
have
at a
hope for
school.
them. I have hope for them. I have a lot of hope for them.
I
I mean,
wish
I think our
I
best
had
group of
as
voters
much
right
hope
now
as
is
you do.
Gen Z.
I hope you're right.
I
That's my
do.
hope.
I, you know,
But I don't have no hope, but I do think that what I was saying about the news stuff, it kind of came out of this new season of True Detective,
okay.
which I don't know if you watched it,
I
but
haven't yet.
I watched the first episode. That was the only one that I watched, and I didn't really like it.
I haven't
But
watched
then,
the old ones either.
well, that's fair. But
I mean,
the
I've meant to, but they're a me thing, not a me and wife thing. So, there's a long
yeah.
list of me things. There's just
Well, I'm also really bad with watching TV, so I barely
that
watch
too.
TV. But
Well, but I mean, particularly when it comes to TV, um, my wife, I think overall likes TV more than I do.
yeah.
And there's nothing that she likes to watch except maybe Scooby Doo that I don't like to watch. And there's some things that I like to watch that like she's very empathic. So she'll get like literally upset.
Mm,
I don't want to make my wife upset so I can watch The West Wing.
yeah.
It's what I watch when she's at the grocery store. Right
Yeah, no,
now, I bet you can even guess what she's watching right now.
I can't. I don't know.
What did you and she talk about for an hour over breakfast?
The Simpsons.
Yes, she's watching The
Okay.
Simpsons right now. As I came downstairs, I
Well, she's
laughed.
got good
I'm like,
taste, so all
I'm
right, we
off
know
to watch,
that.
talk to Chris. He'll never believe you're watching The Simpsons.
Well, but so the point that I was making though is that, so this season it was well reviewed by critics,
Mhm.
right? But then it was review bombed, they say,
By
well,
people who were upset that
by people who are upset. I don't know what they're upset about,
showrunner
but I
changed.
watched the
The
episode and I didn't
showrunner
like it.
changed.
Yeah, but I watched the episode and I didn't like it because I just didn't think it was very good. But then I'm
Well,
like, oh, well, I can't voice my opinion because then they're gonna think that that's literally what the and so anyway,
I mean, I
here's
mean, I, I, I
but
agree that
here's
that's
but here's where it really gets into it being a thing is that there's literally news articles about what Nick Pizzolatto, who is the writer on the first three seasons, had to say about the season, and then the showrunner currently, how she's responding to it in a statement. I don't give a shit. Why
and
is this
and
news?
and I totally agree with you on that.
It's not
Though I
news. It's
though I
not, I
will
don't need to
also
know what people are
say,
thinking all the time.
I
I
would
see their
also
show.
say, go look at microfilm from old newspapers.
I know it's always been that's what I mean by there's no absolutes. But
Right.
I do think that it's the thing with the
I
newspapers
mean,
that you could,
I mean, there was a reason they called it yellow journalism.
yeah. Well, look, I think that the difference between that and this is that even if you don't subscribe to social media, but you have a phone, you're going to be seeing this shit because they're forcing it on you. They're literally just like sending it to you.
Again,
And
I mean,
I'm sounding I'm
I
sounding
agree
like
in principle because you shouldn't have to do work to avoid being inundated with things that you don't
yeah.
care about.
Well, and I think that yeah, I mean this
Um,
goes so much deeper and we could talk about this forever, but it's just
I think it's definitely a side effect of if we're being gracious, we'd call it American capitalism. If we're being less gracious, we'll call it American oligarchy. That the powers
well,
that
that's all
be
true.
look at any new technology, any new media, and try to figure out how can I use this to make more money.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the I
Um,
think that's the real big issue with social media is that
and
that's the
and
problem
and,
with
and
calling it
I
X.
think
That's the problem with Elon Musk taking over and
absolutely,
monetizing
absolutely. And
uh
when Elon Musk took over is when I didn't delete our account.
I
I don't
didn't either. I thought
never
about it.
put anything on X, but I don't scroll X anymore.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm really glad that he took over because I'm not on it as much anymore now. I just use it to promote stuff because I still have that's
And then
the biggest audience that I
I
have.
do more on Blue Sky than I did on X, and the other thing, and this has just always been a me thing, it comes out of having worked in tech or worked at Best Buy and seeing how new technology is released, et cetera, and having grown up the son of a networking consultant that like was always on the cutting edge of technology for work. I learned a long time ago that before I mean, I was the last person to get a smartphone.
Yeah.
I was the last person to start texting. Because until I had a feel for what am I going to do with it? How am I going to integrate it into my life? What do I want it to be? What do I not want it to be? I didn't jump on. But that's me. Um, but I also think that that's more how kids adopt things. I mean, yeah, they want the new cool thing, but if the new cool thing doesn't immediately catch their attention, it's their new $500 cool thing that sits on a shelf. I mean, I literally was listening to a kid talk today. Our kids get to keep their iPads when they get out of school. And she was talking about, yeah, I don't care. It's just going to say, what do I need an iPad for? My brother's has sat on a shelf since he graduated 3 years ago, and I'm like,
Yeah. Well, I don't really know what to say, but
um,
it's just I do I guess I wish that I had your um
I think we should always be looking for ways to help our kids. But the thing that pisses me off the most lately, particularly as a teacher who worked really hard to help my students through the pandemic, and I know that there were things that we couldn't do during the pandemic, but we also did things that we didn't do not during the pandemic that were good. We learned things during the pandemic. The kids learned things. Is all of the talk is about what we lost during the pandemic. No talk about what we gained.
yeah, there I mean there is
They
certain
learned different things. They didn't stop learning.
yeah. Well, it's that's what I mean about we don't we're not going to know for a couple of years. There's going to have to be some
Right.
study done or something that's going to have
Some
to look
study
at
done,
what
and
happened.
frankly, it's going to be kids that are in high school now that do the first real study.
Yeah. Yeah. I just
The
it's
first study that has clear enough eyes on it that it's not a biased question from the beginning.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
I do, yeah, absolutely. I think that but I do think that there is some merit to that the idea that I
Oh,
was
there's absolutely merit.
regurgitating from,
No, 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 no. The merit is, particularly as like a teacher or as a social worker or whatnot, you need to understand that their pressures are coming from a different place.
yeah.
My only real pushback is the idea that it's worse for them, because because
Oh,
if
yeah.
for no other reason, I don't think it ever helps them when that's what we convey to them is, oh, we had it easy when we're in high school, not like you now.
No, I don't think well, that's the thing that I kind of always I always kind of it's a joke, but it's also partially true. I'm like, oh no, it's always been bad.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but
The things that have been bad have always been bad. The things, I mean, have you ever read Neil
look at it.
Postman's Amusing Ourselves to Death?
No.
It's about television. And it, because it was written in the 80s, and it's good about television, but you could take that book,
And
and other
apply it
than the
to
fact
social
that it's
media.
like scholarly and like has references or whatnot, if you replace the word television with internet or social media, it would read just as well now. Even if you also replace the word book with television.
Yeah.
We're always changing how we get things.
Yeah, I mean I think that's always going to be true to a certain extent
Yeah.
is that it's oh there's always
I
going to be
I
that.
always think the biggest danger, and I'm not actually at all accusing you of doing this, because I think creators, and if anything, comic creators are actually often the best at like seeing the whole field, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Um, I think the biggest danger is when we start thinking that the way we used to do it is automatically the better way to do it because it's the way we know how to do.
Well, that's literally what got us Trump, right? It's like
Yeah,
people talking about, oh, make America
exactly.
great again. And yeah, I hate that sort of thinking, and I definitely don't think that it was better when,
Right.
but I do again, there's just that idea that that's you're not just trying to be the coolest person at school anymore. You're trying to be the coolest person on to all your followers and all that.
Yeah.
But whatever.
And some people care
It's
about them and some people don't. And some people care
yeah,
about them for a while and then stop. And
I mean, I
yeah,
went through it. I was, I'm
yeah.
looking at what,
I mean, my son
why am I
cared a
not getting
ton
the
about how
favorites
many
on this one?
Instagram followers he had until he had kids. And it's like, I don't even remember the last time it was. Oh, yeah. I put a picture of the kids up last week.
Yeah. Well, that's that's literally that's kind of how I was, I'm just I don't really care anymore. I
No.
used to care about that's a Bob Dylan lyric. I used to I used
Yeah.
to care. But yeah, I used to care about, how many likes and retweets and all that I get. And at this point, I'm just like, as long as it's out there, I'm
But there
good.
were lots of things that I liked and cared about in high school that I look back and go, how did I spend so much energy caring about that? And no, it wasn't Facebook likes because Facebook didn't exist. It was, the number of parties I got invited to, or, you know, I don't even know.
Well, I don't think that's gone away. I think that that's still there because I don't think it's not like we live in a completely digital world where,
No,
it's not
we
a Zach
we
Thompson,
don't, but I
where we're all
think
wearing headsets. But
no, but you know what? I think more of the kids that aren't getting invited out to this stuff have a group of friends somewhere else, whether it's in school or not.
yeah, and again, that's the thing that I think has always been true to an extent.
Right.
Um, I, I, yeah,
Whereas 30 years ago, you could really be alone.
well, I think, frankly, I think that social media makes me feel more alone than anything.
Yeah, which is
And
which is
that's why I don't, I try to get
it,
off of it because and I think that that's the
but
effect of
but that's
being,
also, I mean, we we talk about social media, we talk about scrolling. I mean, even the kids I know that are on Facebook, if you look at their Facebook page, you wouldn't know they were on Facebook. They use it for the messaging app.
yeah, yeah. Well, when I was on Facebook, that's what I used it
It's
for.
the instant. I mean, essentially, what they're doing often with video now is what people used to do with AOL Instant Messenger.
Well, that's why I kept
Only it's
my
easier
Facebook.
to close it off to be only the people that you know and want to talk to.
Yeah. Well, I kept my Facebook for until about, I want to say 2016.
Right. I
I
still
had
have
it.
both a Facebook and a Twitter, but I really only use them for the messaging.
Well, I got off Facebook. I'm off Instagram now. I'm gonna be off Twitter. I told Jake already. I was like, at some point this year, I'm gonna get off Twitter. And
I
I was
keep
like, you
meaning to
have
have a
you have the
slightly
following
bigger,
anyway.
yeah, I keep meaning to have a slightly bigger following on, or not slightly big, slightly bigger presence for the podcast on Instagram, because I feel like Instagram and Blue Sky are the two places that people actually find comics right now.
It's true, but the
And
for
I don't
me,
care
it's
about them finding me, but I like to elevate your stuff. If I not just your stuff, but
yeah,
I don't want creators to have to be their own PR guy if I can be even a teeny tiny bit of their PR guy.
yeah. I think I'm at the point in my
But
life
I'm done
where
with
I'm.
X. I
Yeah,
don't even like calling it X. I'm done with Twitter.
I don't call it X. I call it Twitter.
Well, you called it
Uh,
X a minute ago, and that's why I copied.
well, the reason I called it X was I was talking about Elon Musk, but
Right. Right.
no, I always call it Twitter. I still in my browser I type in twitter.com and then it redirects me to X. This
All the dumb ass.
Yeah, it's really stupid, but
Elon Musk proving
here's the
over and
thing.
over again what I've been saying forever. Being a billionaire doesn't
But
make you
why?
smart.
But why are we all? This is part of the sort of the thing that I makes me a little because I said when I tell people I got rid of my Instagram, like, will you still have your Twitter? And I'm like, well, and then they'll bring up the Elon Musk thing. I'm like, well, what's so great about Mark Zuckerberg? I'm like, about this
I
guy.
mean,
So it's
if
just
you
like,
really need to compare the two, I will say what's so great about Mark Zuckerberg is he doesn't have the number of government contracts that Elon Musk has, and therefore doesn't have the power to like change the direction of wars on a whim.
I would argue that he does have that power. I would argue that he does. I don't think that he maybe has the contracts, but in what he's putting out there and how his social media sites work and how
Yeah,
they
but
they
but
shift people's viewpoint.
what I'm talking about with Musk is he can shut down the satellites.
Yeah, and that's everybody else's problem because they listen to him. They let him do this stuff. We shouldn't
Oh,
let them do
I
it.
know, but that's the sort of stuff that we need to be talking about with Musk. I don't give a damn about Musk and Twitter. Musk and Twitter is hilarious because he flushed $40 billion down the toilet. The real problem is the United States government has privatized all sorts of things that shouldn't be privatized to begin with. But more importantly, huge numbers of really important things are privatized through Elon fucking Musk.
Yeah, I bristle at the idea that space travel is privatized, but what can you do? Um,
Actually, have you read Astro City? I assume you've read Astro City.
I've read parts of it. I haven't read the whole,
Did,
but
did, did you do you remember the Samaritan origin story?
refresh my memory.
He
It's
got
been
sent
literally
back.
since high school.
Okay, he got sent back from the future to fix the timeline essentially. But the
Hmm.
event that he had to change was he had to save Challenger.
Uh,
And they don't explain entirely why that saves the future. They say, "Oh, was it somebody or the child of somebody on the spaceship that made it so everything?" And I don't even think it's that. I think it's because Challenger didn't explode. We didn't start privatizing space. We didn't start privatizing science.
yeah.
Privatizing science is about as dumb as you could possibly get.
Yeah, well, I mean that goes into, privatization of healthcare and all that too. I mean, how that was, there was a big discussion at dinner the other day about, because Jake was visiting and we were all talking about the UK and how you can go to the doctor and that's, doesn't cost anything. You can just go. You go to the dentist and it costs
Crazy.
$20 and that's okay, for an extraction or something like that. So it's uh, the fact that all this stuff is. Anyway, the point is that Barry Gifford wrote.
Yes. And we've gone down this rabbit hole enough. I'm sorry. My fault. I
No,
get on
I
my
think I
soapboxes.
said something that got us going
Yeah,
down.
but I just kept going and kept going and kept going.
We both did. We both have
Okay.
talking. Well, I like talking, so I'll happily talk about this stuff. I think I think it's important to talk about this stuff because I
I do
think
too.
that too often, you know, I feel like a lot of people don't want to talk about some of this stuff because it doesn't exactly inspire the greatest of feelings
Well, and
sometimes,
also it's
and
full of political landmines and whatnot,
also
but
political
I
landmines.
also think that that's why we should talk about it.
Well, speaking of political landmines, I feel like Night People might be the darkest thing I've ever written
It is
or
pretty
had my
dark.
name on, and it's definitely got the most sex out of anything that I've written. And there's
Have you
another thing
done
that
sex yet?
I don't well, what did I do?
Kind of in the first
The
arc of that
first
Texas
arc,
Blood.
it's implied, and
Right.
I wouldn't really want to have done it explicitly anyway, but this was, that was part of the steaminess was sort of part of and I think actually, you know what? Here's a great example of what I think Night People is. It's very much Natural Born Killers.
Yeah, it's definitely got that feel to it.
That's and it predates Natural Born Killers, which is an interesting thought that this was something that was before that. Um, but
Well, I always like looking at stuff and going, I wonder if this led to that.
it could have been. I think it's part of the zeitgeist too, though. I mean, we were
Right.
just talking. You were talking
Well,
about
but I
Aiken,
mean,
and we were talking about Miller and all that. So it's there.
let me ask you something when it comes to the zeitgeist. Do you think the zeitgeist is like completely random, or do you think it's, this influences this, that influences that, that influences this, or this person read that and talked about it, and maybe, people can't immediately say, "Hey, I read Night People, and that's why I made Natural Born Killers." But if Natural Born Killers came out of a conversation he had with somebody, and if you actually were able to go back, it turned out that that guy had read, I mean, I think there's I think the
I
zeitgeist is like the I think one of the reasons the zeitgeist has gotten so hypercharged now is social media, but I think it's always been like the crackle of social connections.
yeah. I think that social connections for sure. I think that if you're a
And
for
also
lack of a better
where like history meets fiction.
yeah, I think that that's a very good way of putting it. I think that if you're for lack of a better term a thinker and you're living through an intense time, I think that a lot of people will come up with the same sort of
Absolutely.
interpretations of
Yeah, I
things.
was just the only reason it popped up is I've been thinking I was talking to Pornsak Pishishote and Dave Lonergan about it because they're doing
Jesse
Man's
Lonergan.
Best. Jesse, I'm sorry. Why did I say Dave? Jesse Lonergan. I love Jesse. Why did I call him Dave?
I
It's
think
been
that's
a
a
long week.
compliment. He looks like a Dave.
But Jesse's awesome.
Jesse's great. I love
Why is
and
Dave
Pornstack.
better?
I love both Pornstack uh and
but but but
I actually should send Pornstack. I forgot to send him Night People. I'll have to send him Night People.
well, you should also look him up while you're in LA.
That's true. Well, I don't have time. I literally don't have time. That's the thing. I'm so busy when
That's
I get
fair.
there. It's like
um,
I'm not even gonna
you
get to
don't need
see
to
friends
sleep.
really. Yeah, well, that's the thing, right? It's so stacked with anyway. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good, and I'm really fortunate to have the time that I'm gonna be having. But um, uh, so what were they saying? What were they
Well,
saying?
we were just talking about the fact that he and Jesse are doing Man's Best, you know,
Yeah,
where they take animals to talk about this moment in time, and Tom and Peter Gross are doing Animal Pound, where they take animals to talk about this moment in time.
yeah.
And all of it came right after Tony Fleeks did Stray Dogs.
Well, and the thing I think
And
most reminded me of
he
was
also
the
used the
three.
word zeitgeist, so that's why it had been in.
Yeah. It is funny that that's kind of that's how these things work. But I think that in particular in looking at like the again, because this is just where Night People came out was the tail end of the 20th century. I think that, just at least that we know of serial killers were a 20th century invention, right? I mean, there were serial killers throughout history, I'm sure. We
I
do
mean
know that Jack the
Jack the
Ripper,
Ripper's 19th century, but late
yeah,
19th
but
century. Right,
the real that well, first of all, we classified them for one
right,
thing.
right.
Um,
Serial killers in the way we think of them when we're true crime junkies
yeah,
is very 20th century.
absolutely. And I think that it's part of how we started reporting things and how we classify things and how we started to understand, um,
The
mental illness.
idea of thrill killing or um serial killers not just being evil or completely deranged, but having some sort of pleasure that they took from it, etc., is almost a second half of the 20th century thing.
Yeah.
Um, Add in it the trippy drugginess that we got into in the last third of the 20th century. Um, yeah, I can see that zeitgeist coming
Yeah,
night people.
it's an interest, but it is an interesting thing to think about that this is, just in terms of again, in just in daily life, we were before the 20th century, war was not something that everybody saw. The horrors of war was not something that, well, I mean, again, not black or white. There was obviously photos in the 19th century of the
Well,
Civil
I
War,
was actually going to say
but
in in American history, if you were male until about the 1950s, war was something that almost everybody did.
this is, yeah, but I mean, I'm talking about, that this is,
It
we
wasn't part of the
now,
culture.
Yeah, but
But
with
really, you only
films,
have
with
Vietnam where the pictures were part of the culture.
but
It's almost a shame that
the
it stopped.
rise and change of
Yeah,
technologies, and
absolutely.
we have radio shows where we're
I,
able to talk about, and this was just in Killers of the Flower Moon, the fact that this horror was sort of just it was an entertainment.
right, right.
And I mean, we're still doing that in podcasts.
Oh yeah,
We're taking somebody's misery and we're making it into a podcast, and we enjoy it. And I think that sort of that idea is what that zeitgeisty thing that Night People is feeding on, and I think Natural Born Killers feeds on, and
yeah.
a lot of the work of Tarantino and the Coen brothers, and there's so many that
Oh, absolutely.
chew on that type of stuff, and what it was the 20th century,
Yeah.
and just the intense horrors of everything that was, and it was just, it was an explosion of just everything. And I think that we're still dealing with that. This is all the Big Bang. It's creating our universe. We're seeing the all of the sparks of the Big Bang are out there flying and are going to eventually become stars. But that's what we're living through, is we're just seeing those stars going flying past us, and we're going, look at that, isn't that crazy, and we're having to deal with it. um
We have the language and the time to deal with it.
yeah, yeah, and I think I
I think
think that
we
it's a good thing.
underrate how much I do too, but I think we underrate how much just the evolution of language contributes to us being able to deal with things.
Yeah, language, and I think that, because here's the thing, I think it's a double-edged sword, because I think that social media can be a supremely empathetic tool, but it can also do the exact opposite.
Absolutely.
And that's
You
another.
ever read John Ronson's
I can tell you right now, no, but
okay. It was he wrote a book on what was it? It was the there we go. So you've been publicly shamed is essentially about how social media has allowed and particularly damaging on people who like are small, because for the most part, if you're rich, you can just work around it. But it centers on like two low level employees somewhere that did a stupid picture that went viral.
hmm
They got fired. Everybody knew their name. There's another story about some reporter that sent out a bad tweet, then got on a plane, and by the time she landed, her world had blown up.
Yeah.
you know. Um, so yeah, no, I get things move too fast sometimes. That's the part I like the least about the internet age is, I mean, Mark Twain used to say, though I've heard it's misattributed or not properly quoted, but essentially that a lie would make it around the world while the truth was tying his shoes.
Mm.
Um, I think at this point, the lie makes it around the world before you even know you need to tie your shoes.
Night
Half the time,
people.
yeah, half the time it feels like, but by the time anybody knows that they need to try to combat a lie,
Well, I mean, that's very true of social media, and I think
yeah,
that,
absolutely,
that one of the things that I just brought up in an interview that I did for, what was it? I don't remember what the site was, but there was an interview that I did where I was talking about, how, for example, with AI, which is a real issue, which is weird because it's like very much a sci-fi thing. And that's, hey, that's the 21st century. But um, with AI, I find it so interesting and sort of depressing that science fiction authors have been warning us about AI for over 100 years.
Yeah.
And RUR, it's essentially about AI, and I mean, it's obviously, I think it's a better
Oh,
RUR is about slaves rising up against their
I saw
oppressors,
something
but
recently, and I'm trying to remember where it was because I hate repeating it without being able to source it, but I'm going to anyway. Um, Apparently, some of the quote unquote AI, um, like customer service that we have out there now
mm,
is not AI at all. It's stuff that's been moved from India to somewhere cheaper in South or Central America where they have people who get to choose from responses.
yeah, I would imagine that would be very funny if true, and if it is true, it makes so much sense. But yeah,
Doesn't it?
it does. But yeah, it's just the idea that computers could develop, for all intents and purposes, emotions, have thoughts, and could potentially destroy the world. Again, it's literally something that science fiction authors have been telling us and saying, hey, this could happen. And this is how bad it would be. And now it's like in Congress, they're like, oh, we should probably pass a law about this. And it's already been made. It's the Jurassic Park thing of you didn't think whether it was whatever the line is. I don't remember offhand. I'm tired.
Yeah.
Can't come up with a.
Well, since you're getting tired, before I let you go first, is there any last words you want to say about um Night People?
Well,
Final
here's what I
cutoff is
want
a
to
week from
say.
Monday.
I want to say that I hope people order it because I think that I'm really proud of the work. I think that it's something that I've never done before, um, in that it's somebody else's work that is really on display. It's me taking their work and moving it to another medium, and really highlighting their work, but also doing it in a way. I think that the biggest part of me that comes through is in the visuals, and that's funny because obviously I'm not the artist. But it's in what I highlighted in my script in terms of what we should see and what we should not see. And I think that's where I feel like my voice comes through in this, especially. And also, in terms of what I capped and where I move scenes around and all that. But it's an interesting exercise for me as a writer, but I think in terms of people who like my stuff, that they will find something interesting in it as well in terms of how my work melds with somebody else's, a writer with a very distinctive voice. And I also I just think it's a good comic, a good
I
series.
very, very much enjoyed the first issue. I'm looking forward to more. Um,
Thank you very much.
let's head to Ambrose County for a while
For sure.
before you run away. Um, I
I'll give you 10 more minutes and then I gotta go because I am pretty tired.
yeah, I've talked a lot of Enfield on the show because I think every week it's come out. It's been among my top three books.
All right,
It's
thank
one
you.
of my top three miniseries of the year. Talk to the listeners about the Enfield Gang Massacre.
Well,
I think
now that
was really cool. Yeah.
now that we have all 6 issues out, I think that I mean, that was also a challenge to write because it was 3 panels per page and splash pages primarily. There was a couple pages in this first or second issues that we kind of cheated on that, but primarily it was just, like I said, all 3 panel pages and splash pages, which if you did what Darwin Cook did in New Frontier, you look at that and you say, well, he did it, but he did it with 48 pages or 52 pages, or however many pages he used, which is he had a big book. It was a big comic. It was a big monthly comic. It was double sized at least. Um, Whereas with us, we were doing your standard 32 page issue. And so that was a challenge, and to try to tell a monthly serialized story in which you don't have a lot of real estate. How do you tell a story? How do you keep people invested? How do you invest people in the emotions of these characters that they're literally only going to get to know for 6 issues? And at that, only in that truncated form where you're going to be looking at each panel. So I thought it was a really challenging but also very rewarding experience working on that. And I also pushed myself to do new and different things, just in terms of the storytelling that I tried to do, and um, that goes right down to the end. So, spoiler if you haven't read it, but the ending is a reference to Ambrose Bierce, which is the author of the one of the greatest American short stories of all time, which is The Occurrence at Elk Creek Bridge, which is about a hanged man um, who is being killed in the Civil War for some war crime or some other thing, and he's being walked off of the side of a bridge, and he's going to hang there. And when he jumps off the bridge, the rope breaks, and he survives. But then at the end, the rope snaps, and he's dead. And so that was the reference was what if we because the name of our county is Ambrose. I sort of thought that it would be nice to do a full on just we're doing something set in the 1800s. It's Ambrose County. Why don't we just really just lay into that? And I think that, and I thought that it would be really tragic if we did it right. And from a creative perspective, I laid in early because we had always played with dreams in Texas Blood. That's the thing that I always kind of enjoy doing. Some people might think it's a cop out, but I enjoy it. I've always enjoyed it.
It always depends on how it's done.
Yeah, I think that we do it tastefully.
And
So
we've talked a lot about nothing's black and white. I normally think that like the Wizard of Oz, it was all a dream.
mhm.
Frustrates me, but I think it frustrates me most because A, that's not how the books were, and B, it eliminated the easy possibility of having more.
Yes. Except we did get Return to Oz,
Yeah,
which
like
is a movie that I like.
yeah, I do too, but it was like what, 60 years later?
That's true. That is true. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't think that you're wrong. But I also don't think that
And
that's
actually, it's
necessarily what,
also why The Wizard of Oz wasn't popular at the
well, that could
time.
be.
Oz was the Harry Potter of the teens. Oz was translated into like
Yeah.
14 or 15 different languages,
And
sold
there's a
millions
ton
of
of
copies.
books.
Everybody 14
Yeah.
by Baum, and I think seven more by somebody else. Um, Sold millions of copies all over the world. So pretty much everybody who saw The Wizard of Oz in 1939 had read The Wizard of Oz, but not just read The Wizard of Oz. They'd read The Marvelous Land of Oz, and they'd read TikTok of Oz, and they'd read The Scarecrow of Oz, and The Tin Woodman of Oz, and Ozma of Oz.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
there's a way to do it and there's a way not to do it, and I think that there's certain ways where that could be hokey and just could not work
Absolutely.
necessarily. But we laid in the second issue. The second issue opens with a dream sequence, and the way the dream sequence was laid out was in a splash page, and this was a reference to Steranko issue of Captain America,
Okay.
in which Captain America is having an hallucination, which I couldn't say that word for a second. Um, but he's having a hallucination because he's just been drugged, and there's no panels, but there's various images that you would normally put into a panel, but there are no panels. There's nothing separating these. They're all just floating on a page, and it makes it this surreal thing. And it is surreal imagery anyway, but it was an interesting approach, and I thought we've done dream sequences before, but we've never done them like that before. And I thought that would be an interesting approach to a dream sequence. And then in Crafting the End event field, where our hero is again If you haven't read it, read it. But I don't really think it's a spoiler because we open with him as a corpse.
Right.
Um, uh, but we called back to that dream sequence in issue two, where it's laid out in the same exact way. So if you're not paying attention, you could potentially think that they're getting away, that Amy and Enfield are getting away. Um, and that was on purpose, was that I wanted you to kind of go, wait a minute, what's happening here? But if you remember in issue two how that dream sequence is laid out, where there are no panels, it's the splash page with just these images floating across it, then you will know exactly what this is. And it will be all the more heartbreaking because you're seeing this life that they could have potentially had together and how it's torn away the minute that his neck snaps. And then we cut to you pull the page and then there's the double page spread of him hanging with a wide. And that was, I think, something that I really thought that Jake handled very well. And I mean, when doesn't he handle something well? But
Yeah.
it was something that he handled very well. And I when I sent him the script, I said, I think this could be good if we do it right. And even before I wrote the script, I said that. And then once I wrote the script, I said, I think this is good. Please read it and tell me what you think. Because if it doesn't work, I'll figure something else out.
Oh, it totally works.
And that was his.
Well, and I think it works even more because it's not quite the end when we find out that he's really dead. You have
Yeah,
aftermath. That's like
yeah,
more the middle of the book.
yeah,
There's no way for you to there's no ambiguity, I guess is what I'm saying.
yeah,
I think sometimes when the dream is there and then it gets left ambiguous, it's a little weird. Here you get to see that essentially she dreamed for a moment, but no, and then her world just fell apart and it became other people's entertainment.
yep, yep. So
And
that
I
was.
love the silent just moon on the last page too.
Mhm.
It's a
Well,
very nice
that's
touch.
also a mirror with the first page, so it's
Right.
the first page of the first issue. So, which I always kind of do stuff like that anyway in all of our books. But it's I wanted this to feel like
Yeah. I have to ask you one quick question
sure.
because I don't know, and I'm certain you talked about it before. So I have no idea how I didn't notice it until you sent me issues 5 and 6 together that all 6 covers are connecting. Did Jacob do them as one painting that you
No,
split up or
no. He
okay.
he painted them when they were due, but I mean, it was his plan from the start to do connecting covers. He
Okay.
wanted to do connecting covers. I think he did the first one and the second one in tandem, and I think that he and then started taking breaks. He's just a busy guy, so I mean he's got a
Right.
lot of jobs. He's but so
I was so hoping that there was a canvas somewhere with all of them. That would have been
well
awesome.
he's selling them online, and I know somebody's bought two of them, and I think they intend to buy all of them, but
Right.
they cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I'm
Because
I'm
it is
I
a really, really beautiful image.
well, thank you very much. Well, that's the beauty of comics is the collaboration. So,
Yeah.
um, I I'm getting the signal that I must leave.
Well, really quick, plans for more of that Texas blood? Is it coming back?
I can't tell you what we're working on,
Okay.
but it's not Texas Blood. But we're
Okay.
doing a book together
Okay.
that hopefully will be announced and will come out later this year. And then we will be back in Ambrose County in 2025.
Sounds good.
And that arc I'm very excited about.
Well,
I
hang
don't
on.
know if people want another, time period thing, but that's what we're doing.
Okay.
We do the genre wheel thing where we did, neo noir. We did a cult horror adjacent thing, and then we did a serial killer in a blizzard. Then we did Enfield, which is an old west story. and the next one will be a heist.
Oh, nice.
A
Nice.
heist on the biggest ranch in West Texas.
Very cool. I look forward
So, set in 2003.
to it. That's great.
2003, the night the bombs drop in Iraq.
That's great. I
So,
like it.
I'm really excited to do that
Well, let me take us out, and then I'll say goodnight to you after that. So,
one. Well, thank you
for
very much, Tad. I appreciate it. Please, everybody, please read Night
yeah,
People.
read Night People. Go pick up the trade paperbacks for That Texas Blood and the Enfield Gang Massacre. If you see Chris Condon's name, just buy it. Just buy it.
Yeah, that's a good rule.
If you see Jacob Phillips' name, just buy it. I mean, I know Chip doesn't need the money, but buy it anyway. New Bern's pretty good. um, for Chris Condon, this has been 22 Panels. We'll see you after the next page.
Hey guys, this is Tyler from 22 Panels. I'm here to tell you all about our Patreon. If you enjoy this show, please consider donating to our Patreon to keep this show going. We have many different tiers, all different levels to help you decide what's right for you. Okay, so get on out there to patreon.com/22 Panels Podcast.